Unit 7, which is we already started a part of it last week. So in Unit 7, we complete talking about dynamic modeling. And this time we will explain more details. We just still have a small part about interactions diagrams, which is sequence and communications diagrams. And then later we will talk about two more diagrams, which is the status diagrams and packages diagrams. So we already did all a part about how we're going to represent the optional alternatives and the loop using the fragments and the sequence diagrams. We already mentioned what's the difference between using an argument as a string and when we use it as an object, and what's the advantage of and disadvantage of each of those. We already talked about the different strategies of who's responsible of making sure of the pre and the post condition. مين اللي مسؤول إنه لازم تكون البري والبوست condition already checked. Is the sender or the receiver? We have two strategies. We already explaining those during the previous sessions. And today we will move on a different strategies of implementing, of choosing which object will receiving a message. So let's get back to an example we already saw it before, which is talking about hotel reservation. So if you would like to check in, so the use case now is the check-in. So we're drawing a sequence diagram to represent that use cases about how we're going to do a check-in. And if you recall before, I said to doing sequence diagrams, we're going to rely on two other diagrams, which is the class diagrams or use case diagrams. And also we need the textual explanation من use case diagrams. عشان نرسم هذه sequence diagrams في معلومات موجودة في use case and also في textual اللي كان فيها التفاصيل what is the main scenario, alternative scenario بالإضافة إلى class diagrams. طيب الآن there are some assumptions we already made during this course specifically. We always assume that the first message coming from the interface. دائما أول message راح تيجي من الانترفيس. But the question is, it's coming from the interface to where? راح تدخل على مين? It is going to go to the hotel. It is going to go to the guest. It is going to go to the room. This is the questions now. I'm just going to refresh your mind about the concept that we are going to draw this, rely on the class diagrams and the use case diagrams. فأول شيء هذا use case عفوا sequence diagrams, we have already saw the class diagram reflecting this sequence diagrams من unit 5. So we already know there is an association between a hotel and we have an association between a hotel and the guest and the hotel and the room and so on and so forth. هذه العلاقات هي اللي راح تبين لنا this who can send a message to whom. So this is one thing. The other things we already saw use case diagrams. So we know that we having a guest who can make a reservation, and I have a receptionist who can make a reservation, who can check in, who can check out as well. طيب الآن to draw sequence diagram, we select one of those use cases, such as now we are going to do a check-in. In our example, for Unit 7, we draw a sequence diagram for a check-in. Who's going to do a check-in as a first person? راح يكون a receptionist. طيب now we need to define who's going to receive the first messages. I need to remember those لأنه we're going to use it. الآن this is the use case. عرفنا أنه عندنا more than one actor. A receptionist who can do a check-in. And if we take a back look to the class diagram, we know that we're having only 3 class diagrams here. So what we're going to answer now, what's the strategies of this message sending to who? To whom? Exactly. So the first strategies, so let's back to the strategies, which is in 21. So we having 3 strategies. The first one said, send all the message to one central class. So we're going to decide in this system, we have a main class, such as a hotel, such as a system, such as a university. One class, we're going to decide this is the main class. Any object from this class will receive all the initials message. بمعنى آخر بالعربي. So راح نحدد كلاس معينة، نقول هذه هي الكلاس الأساسية، راح ننشئ منها object. أي أول مسج راح ترسل من الانترفيس دائما راح تجي إلى هذا الكلاس. So this is the first technique. The second technique, we will say the first message will send to the actor class. So if we back to our example, who's the actor class? We having a guest. لكن based on user case, use case diagrams, we're supposed to have a receptionist to do check-in. So we can have another object من نوع receptionist is the one who's going to receive the first message. فالتكنيك الثاني, instead of say the first technique, we're going to use الهوتيل. دائما هي اللي راح تستقبل المسج الأولى. The second technique, we will see who's going to do this use case to check in, اللي راح يعملها receptionist. So we will have a receptionist as an object, and he is the one who's going to receive the first message. طيب. The third strategies, I'm going to explain it in the pictures to avoid back and forth. The third strategies, they said, we having a use case. And do I have this use case as a class in our class diagram? I have a make reservation, check in, check out. ايش الاشياء اللي يقدروا يعملوها الريسبشنست والجست؟ هم الuse cases. لكن if we back to the class diagrams, we don't see any class represent check in to represent check out. ما عندنا class محددة لها. الاستراتيجية الثالثة said we're gonna to create an extra class. راح نعمل class إضافي. What is this class as? This class is a use case. So if I have a check-in, أنا راح أرسم sequence diagrams إلى ال check-in. So I'm going to create a class اسمه check-in, and I'm going to creating an object من ال check-in, and it's going to receive the first message. فأنا هنا جالسة أعمل sequence diagrams إلى ال let me just maximize it. I'm drawing a sequence diagrams for this use case. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this use case, creating a class for it, add it to the class diagrams, and then I'm going to creating objects with a type use case here at the beginning. So it's going to receive the first message. So let's see the whole explanation now with whatever in the slides. So we have a central, actor, and use case diagram. So the first one is a central class. So all the messages will go to the hotel, to the system. So everything, we don't think about where it's going to go. We have a central class. So what's the advantage of this? We don't need to really think where is the first message go to go. يعني it's going to send to where? رايحة إلى مين? راح يسهل علينا thinking, and also it is going to good for traceable. If there is any issue with the first message, we always know that is going to send to one object اللي هو مثلا اللي هو راح يكون الهوتيل. If I have a specific specialized object مثلا ذرتس, فأنا عارفة إن كل المسج to check in, to check out, to do whatever دائما راح تروح إلى الهوتيل. All of them going to hotel. طب ايش disadvantage? What do you think? If I sending all the message to one central class or central object, ايش راح تكون المشكلة عندنا? What's the problem? Anyone? Exactly. The central class will be overload. الكلمة اللي على أساس أنكم تذكروا what's the disadvantage is going to be overload. يعني راح يكون محول فوق متحمل أكثر من اللازم. كل شيء جاي له في النهاية. So it's an overload. All the messages is going to send to it. So this is cause a bottleneck at the end. يعني راح يكون كل الشغل عليه. The other strategies is going to use one of the actor classes. So the messages should be sent to the object corresponding to one of the actor. So initially, we have a guest or we have a receptionist who's going to initialize this use case. So he is the one going to receive the first message. What's the advantage of this one? It is going to give us a clear who's going to do it about a person. The weakness, it's hard to traceable. So لو كان عندي أكثر من actors, if I have a different actors, and I do have a different messages, it's hard to trace this message gonna to go to whom exactly. لما يكون عندي أكثر من actors. Elimination of reusability. If I always said that the first class coming to guests, then I make it limited that, for example, the receptionist cannot do a check-in. However, in reality, in our cases, if you recall, we said, for example, if we're talking about a make a reservation can done by a guest or by a receptionist. أنا لو عملت make a reservation coming to a guest, حددنا أن the first message always coming to a guest. That means I said it's not going to come to receptionist now. Or if I say the first message when I make a reservation always coming to receptionist, I cannot say it for a guest. So this is going to give us a limitation of reusability. ما نقدر نعيد استخدامها again and again. The third cases of or the third strategies of who's going to receive the first message, مين اللي راح يستقبل أول رسالة, is using a use case. So as I said, راح نروح إلى the use case, we're going to create a class of it, راح يكون عندنا then an object. We're going to create object from that use case. طيب, what is going to be the first message? هذا class diagram عندنا. Usually, any of the class diagrams, I have a hotel, it has a set of operation, بعض العمليات. Set guest, get guest, remove guest, whatever, guest, same things, عندها مجموعة من الoperation. طب أنا when I add a class اسمه check in, check out, it doesn't have any operation. ما داخلها أي عملية. The main operation راح تكون داخل هذه الclasses, it's called a run. Okay? So the main operation will be إيش؟ run. So the first message راح تكون الرن, يعني شغل لي هذه الأوبجكت اللي منها هذا اليوز كيس. إيش الأدفانتج تبعها؟ راح نتخلص من مشكلة الريوزابيلتي اللي كانت موجودة. We just state the limitation when we're using an actor as a first message receiver. So we're going to overcome these limitations, and also it's going to give us a chance to replace the software implementation whenever we need it. So if I have a first message coming to check-in, if I change the check-in, I just need to change the object اللي جالس يستقبل أول message اللي هو ال check-in. The third advantage of it is that you're providing traceability from each user case to the classes. So أنا لما يكون عندي أول message, خليني أراويكم الإكزامبل اللي هنا. So it's going to be more clear than just saying it. So if I have the first message coming to a use case اللي هي check-in, which as we said is going to be run. If I'm going to change this, it's easier to know that it's going it's the first messages coming as a run for this object specifically اللي هي check-in. So this is what they said here. A disadvantage, الآن let's assume إن إحنا we need to do a system for all of those use cases. So I have to create a class for a make reservation. I have to create a class for a check-in class, for a check-out. I end up راح أنتهي في النهاية to have a lot of extra classes. يعني الكلاس diagram الأساسي عندي كان فيه الهوتيل والروم والجست. That's it. Now I need to add more classes اللي هم يمثلوا أساساً use case diagrams. Okay, so this is going to lead us to extra classes and also a duplications of information as there's a lot of interactions between them. طيب, let's see these exercises. So the exercises هنا يقولون this assumes we having a user interface which is we call it graphical user interfaces in this example اللي هي أول object راح يرسل المسجز. إيش الهدف منه؟ We would like to do a check-in لكن we don't have a specific information. Sorry, if those people are already known by the system or not. So لما تيجي تدخل على النظام usually let's assume you are a new customer for a website. Sometimes you are a new customer, sometimes you already have an account. So a new customer, that's a noun for the system. يعني customer جديد. Noun into the system, that means a return guest. زبون already موجود. So how we know that if you are a return guest or you are a new guest? هل أنت زبون جديد ولا زبون عائد؟ We already explaining this before. كيف نعرف كل الجست اللي موجودين عندنا؟ We can use a method اسمها get all guests. So الميثودز اللي اسمها get all guests, what is going to give us return collections of guests. راح ترجع لنا كل الجست اللي موجودين عندنا بالسيستم. It's already registered, اللي already موجودين في النظام. طيب, let's assume we don't have this guest. I have a new guest. What I'm going to do? I need to create an object من نوع الجست. كيف نعمل create إلى الأوبجكت من النوع الجست? I'm going to say create الجست and I'm going to send all the arguments necessarily to creating this object مثل الاسم الأول, الاسم الثاني والaddress in this case. So what we see here, I have three classes, الهوتيل والروم والجست, which is we already saw before. And if you recall, already عندنا مجموعة من operations اللي كانت associated inside each of those classes. So for example, I have a hotel which is have an identify a guest or find the free room. Okay, and then I have a room which is accept and sit the occupant, and then I have a class of guest which is sit the room. هذولا, this is we already saw it before. What we have it in you now, we get to create as what we mentioned, the check-in class, and always is going to have an operation اسمها run. طيب, بناء على هذا explanation, which strategies we are using to send the first message? احنا قلنا first message دائما جايه من اليوزر انترفيس. اللي جالسين الان نتكلم عنها ان عندنا 3 strategies is going to send to whom. راح ترسل الى مين؟ ايش الاستراتيجيز اللي الان جالسين نستخدمها in this exercise? Exactly, it's a user case classes. كيف عرفنا؟ لأنه we assume that we creating a class for use case. لما نعمل class for use case, that means we are using a use case as a classes. طيب, كيف راح نرسم sequence diagrams تبعها? We already saw this part before. As an object, we have an hotel object, room object, to guest object. All this part we already saw it before. What we have it new is that instead of sending the first message إلى الهوتيل, we now gonna to send the first message which is gonna to be run to check-in. Okay, so this is about the strategies of where we're gonna to send the first message. Any question about it? So what we just cover is the strategies or where we're gonna to send the first message. Now we will move to the 2 extra diagrams that we're gonna to end up with the diagrams in this module. So today we will end up with the diagrams, which is we're gonna to have the state diagrams and the package diagrams. What's the state mean? Now in a unit 5, we studied 2 diagrams, which is the class diagrams and the object diagrams. So this is representing the object diagrams. What's the object diagrams show us? It is a dynamic or static, the object diagram. static. Why it's static? Because it's just gonna to give us a snapshot. إيش يعني snapshot? It is gonna to show us information about currently, not about how it's gonna to change during the time. فمثلا الهوتيل اللي اسمه ريتز, it has a guest called Jack currently. It shows us the relationships between the different objects. That's it. طيب, if I would like to take a look to the hotel as a hotel, and I would like to know the status of this hotel, إيش الحالات اللي ممكن يمر فيها الهوتيل based on if it has a guest or not. إيش الحالات? Let me just I assume someone is on the waiting. What is the cases that it can be appear for a hotel? Occupied and unoccupied. صحيح. Good. What's another things? الحالات الآن we're gonna to let me accept whoever in the waiting room. Okay. على أساس نرسم الستاتس diagram قبل ما أشرح أي تفاصيل فيها, اللي أبغاكم تذكروا we are talking about one object. راح نتكلم على هذا الأوبجكت. What is the status الحالات اللي يمر فيها. So we said الهوتيل it can be occupied or unoccupied. Is this the only status ممكن يمر فيها الهوتيل؟ إن هو في أشخاص موجودين فيه أو ما في أشخاص موجودين فيه. That's it. Can you think about more detail about الهوتيل؟ أول ما يكون we just open الهوتيل. What is going to be? It is going to be full or empty? It is going to be empty. ما راح يكون فيها ولا reservation. Then it is going to be يعني it's not full but it's not empty as well. يعني في زباين موجودين بس لسه ما تعبى. But what's the third status based on my explanation? Either it's going to be empty or it's not going to be not empty. And the last status الحالة الأخيرة full. ممتاز. لما يكون it's all the room is reserved. طيب, I'm going to give you an real life example. If I'm talking about a door as an object, الباب as an object, what is the different status يمر فيها? The different state open and close. هذه حالات معينة. So هذا الآن الconcept you need to leave it in your mind as what we go. It is as simple as this, okay? So it's going to show us a life of history of an object. How is this object is going to change during a time? Based on what? So when I have an object door, I said it can be open and it can be closed. What is going to make it open? إيش اللي يخليه open? كيف يتحول من open to close? Or how is going to change from open status to closed status? إيش الشغلة اللي راح تعملوها على أساس إنه هو ينفتح أو يسكر الباب؟ This is what we call it now الأكشن أو الإيفنت is going to be there. البيرسون إنه هو راح يجي صحيح البيرسون, but we need to talking about what's an event it happened, such as moving a door. So the person is moving the door to open it or to close it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the status machine, which is showing the change from the one status to another, representing to the event معينة راح تحدث إلى هذا الأوبجكت. So the status it can be a sum of a condition or situation, حالة معينة أو شرط معين إلى هذا الأوبجكت اللي جالسين نتكلم عنه. So it is going to remain in this state until something happen. So الدور راح يظل مقلق إلى أن يجي أحد ويفتحه. The same things, the example they're going to give us here, we have a car motor. So the car motors can be running, it can be stopped, it can be in the parking spot, it can be in a different state. The same things if we are talking about detail now about the car motor, if we are focusing only in a window can be shut, it can be open, it can be let's say half open. It's not fully shut. So those are a different status. طيب ايش هي الايفنت؟ الايفنت something done to the object as a messages and it's gonna to result as the end changing of the status and sometimes not. يعني بعض الايفنت تسبب ان احنا نتغير من حالة الى حالة and some of those events doesn't really change the status. And we also have something called an action. So what is going to be done by the object as a represent or as a reaction of sending this message. إذا تذكروا من أيام المدرسة في الفيزيكس we have every action has a reaction. So الأكشن هنا we having an event, the reaction اللي هي الأكشن. So every event has an action. أي حدث راح يكون عندنا action. نقول كان لكل فعل ردة فعل. So and this what's the action is sending the messages to itself as an object. All this is going to be explained easier when we see more example. The transitions it's occur to represent the event whenever we having a change. So for example, let's see the example in here, and I'll make sure that we cover all the contents in the explanation text. So what we have here, we are talking about a room object. So a room object can be occupied and unoccupied. إن هي محجوزة ولا مش محجوزة. لكن when we talking about a hotel كالفندق كله كامل إنه هو ممكن يكون full or unfull and different cases about it. You just give me a second. Okay, some reason doesn't show this here. Okay, so I have now this diagrams show us the status of an object diagrams. So an object as a room, it can be occupied or unoccupied. To draw with the status diagrams, we always have an initial status and we can have a final status. We don't have any example in this slide explaining the final status or but we're going to explain how it is going to go there. That's mean an initial status, it has to be there, but the final status, it can be there or not. So I have an initial status, it's going to start the first status, which is unoccupied. في البداية الغرفة راح تكون مش محجوزة لأحد. طيب إيش الإيفنت اللي راح يصير؟ أجس تشيك إن لما يجي زبون يعمل تشيك إن الستاتس حالة الغرفة راح تتغير from unoccupied to occupied. طيب what is the event? It's gonna to change it from occupied to unoccupied when the guest check out. لما يطلع الزبون من الغرفة we're gonna to change it from occupied to unoccupied. Okay. So now it is a static. Is the state diagrams is a dynamic or static? The state diagram static ولا dynamic?
Dynamic.
Sorry?
Dynamic.
Exactly, dynamic. So now we're going to add more elements to our diagrams. So we already see what is the event. فعندنا الevents موجودة حاليا. To moving from unoccupied to occupied, it can be when say I'm accepting a guest. أنا قبلت زبون. This is the event اللي بالبلو هذول هو الevent. طيب what we need to show now, we say whenever this is event happened, there is an action. لكل فعل ردة فعل. So what is the action? Is on the green one. I'm gonna to have a slash and then I'm gonna to represent the action. So how many action do I have here? I have 2 actions. كيف نمثل more than one action? We're gonna to have a semicolon. So whenever I'm accept the guest, راح تحدث عدة أشياء. Many things is going to happen. The first, it is going to set the occupant to the guest. الأوبريشن راح أقول الآن إن هذا الزبون هو اللي حاجز الغرفة. To set the occupant. And I'm going to set the room في كلاس الجست. ملاحظين guest يعني في الأوبجكت اللي من نوع الجست عنده مثل اللي هي set the room. I'm going to change it to make it self. What is self here? What is self here? What is self here? No, it's not a guest.
This guest.
No, مش الجست. الروم. Thank you. We are talking about which object? We are talking about room object. فالself representing the room object. So we're gonna to do two action. Every action happen in a different object. الست الأوكيبنت راح تكون في نفس الكلاس object. يعني هذه الست الأوكيبنت أول وحدة action اللي كنا نستخدمها كأوبريشن في السيكونس diagrams where it's in the room. موجودة في الروم. علشان كذا أنا ما قلت dot. إذا ذكرين من 251 if it's in the same class we don't use it as invoke. ما نناديها بobject. فالست الأوكيبنت this is from a room. However when I'm using another object اللي هي الجست I said a guest. Now الobject اللي من نوع الجست I'm gonna to change it room so it's gonna to be set to room في object الجست. ايش اللي راح ارسل له؟ I'm gonna to send the self. What is this self? It's a room. How do I know? Because I'm talking about a room object. Okay? So I have an event. I accept the guest and I'm gonna to do two action. راح اغير القيم اللي موجودة داخل الروم and inside the guest. And as a result of this, I'm gonna to move from one status unoccupied to occupied. Okay? After that, if the guests leave a room as an event, طلع من الغرفة، إيش الأكشن اللي راح أحتاج أعملها قبل ما أغير حالة الغرفة؟ I'm gonna to remove the occupant. هذا remove the occupant coming from which class? remove the occupant as an operations coming from which class? Room. كيف عرفت from room? There is no invoke. ما في object. Then I said dots such as a guest dot, a hotel dot. If it's related to hotel, I'm going to say a hotel dot. If it's related to something not a room, it's going to be the name of the object dot. But since I'm using it just by itself, that is mean inside the room. Okay? Now we are going to talk about the transitions, anything related to the transitions, which is this. We have a transition. It's associated with what? We have a source status and we have a target status. And what we have an event اللي هي بالblue, an event trigger, and then we have whatever بالgreen اللي هي action. We can also have one more thing اللي هي guard. We will see how we're going to represent the guard. Okay? So we'll guard as what we always know about it. It's a Boolean expression. Even is going to be true or false. So whenever that's going to be true, we will apply the event. So let's assume I have a hotel. And that hotel has a limited number of rooms. Let's assume it's 100 rooms only. If you are thinking about this diagram, the hotel at the beginning was not full, and then it's going to become a full. The user is going to keep check-in. You cannot say keep check-in for unlimited إلى اللانهائية وما بعدها. We're supposed to have a condition. If it's a last room, we're supposed to do something. Now, this is not representing in this diagrams. We will talk about it later. What if that's not correct? طيب the guard is going to show us a different status, and it's going to show us if and only if this guard is correct, I'm going to enter to this status. So at the beginning, let's read this diagram one by one. Okay. So this diagram تمثل لنا ايش؟ حالات الهوتيل. أنا عندي فندق في البداية راح يكون مش معبى، بعد كذا راح يكون معبى. And then actually we have in a middle status, and then we will see it later. So at the beginning, when you start with it's not filled, whenever someone check in، لو أحد عمل check in وهي لسه مش the last room, as we used, we said this hotel has 100 room. This is the limit. Okay. At the beginning it was not filled. So كم عدد؟ هذا هي الكاباسيتي. Capacity تساوي 100. So currently كم روم محجوزة؟ 0 لما تكون not full. So someone will check in. I have 2 status coming from not full. When this one is check in, I have 2 guard. Is it a last room or it's not a last room? How do I know if it's the last room? When a number, this is a limits. Let's say this is a limit. هذه حد الغرف اللي ممكن ان هي تنحجز بالهوتيل. الكرنت حاليا اللي محجوزة 0. Okay. So the current is going to be 0. How do I know if it's the last room? No, not when it is 100. You're almost there. متى أعرف إن هي الغرفة الأخيرة؟ Yes, exactly. When it's a 99. So the last room, when a number of currents, so limits حد اللي يتحملوا الفندق بشكل عام هي 100. Currently عنده 0. لما أعرف إن هي آخر غرفة، يعني لما currently I have 99 room, that means I have only 1 room left. So that means this is the last room. So this is this condition will happen. So let's now assume we will follow this one. I'm gonna to check in, and it's not a last room. I just have a 0. So I'm gonna to still not full. أنا حاليا عندي 1 room. And I'm gonna another guest to check in. It's a last room? No, it's not a last room because I have 1. So then it's gonna to become 2. Another guest check in, and another guest check in, until I have 99 check in. So someone now would like to check in. Now the last room, it is going to be true. ليش? Because I have a 99 reserved room, so I have only 1 room left. So whenever I check in for this guest, the status of the hotel will turn to full. راح تتغير حالته من not full to full. Okay? You see how that works? Now, whenever someone check out, even if it's 1, whenever 1 is check out, it's going to change to not full. Is this the only situation to become not full? No. If I have, now let's assume I only have 3 room reserved. And someone check out, so it will be 2 reserved. So it was not full and it become not full again. ما تغيرت الستاتس تبعها. So we're having a loop. What we call it this is a self transitions. It is coming from the same status and it doesn't change it. Like in reality, this we can add 1 more status which is said not full and empty. الفندق إما يكون فاضي مليان ولا مش فاضي. So let's take a look to it now. At the beginning, المفروض if I representing the initial status, it's gonna to starting from here. راح تبدأ بالempty sorry. So في البداية الهوتيل راح يكون فارغ. Let's assume I have limit عدد الغرف عندي 100. currently حاليا أول ما أبدأ راح يكون عدد الغرف المحجوزة reserved room current reserved room it's going to be 0. Someone check in, it is going to change it to not full. Okay, then if someone else check in again and the available room, which is this one, I can call it available room 2 for a consistency. So it's an available room. عدد الغرف المتاحة. كم عدد الغرف المتاحة حاليا؟ At the beginning كانوا 100. So this example now, it's just changing name. So I'm going to follow the same naming so you don't get confused, okay? So let's starting with the first one. We having a hotel limit, which is 100. خلاص ثابتة إن هذا الفندق يشيل 100 شخص. Then I have the available room, which is currently كم available room في البداية? It is going to be 100. أول ما أفتح الفندق راح يكون available room 100. So when someone check in, the available room is going to be 99. Now, if I would like to someone else to check in, I'm going to check if the available room is bigger than 1. Isn't 99 bigger than 1? Yes. So it's still not full. لسه مش معبى. 90, 80. طيب في available room only 1. ما عندي إلا غرفة واحدة بس. معناها هي last room. Is the available room اللي هي 1 is bigger than 1? لا. فما راح يمشي هذا الشرط. مين الشرط اللي راح يمشي؟ الcheck in. هذه إن available room equal to 1. So it is going to change the status from not full to full. راح يغير حالته من not full to full. طيب خلصنا الجزء الأول اللي هي check in. We'll do it for a check out. الآن لما يجي شخص يعمل check out, we have 1 option, 2 option, 3 option. If the customer check out and the available room is 0, يعني أنا الآن الغرف هو عمل check out وعدد الغرف صارت 0 available ما عندي ولا غرفة متاحة. It is going to be not full. That's we running the first one. Not full. It is supposed to be check out to go. It's an available room equal to 0 before run it. يعني هو لسه ماخذ آخر غرفة يعني كانت 1 and it's going to become 0 after he left. If you check out, if the hotel limit is 100 minus the available room, let's assume the available room now is 2. So the limit 100 minus the available 2. So it is going to be 89. It is bigger than 1, yes. So it's going to still not full. However, if I have a hotel limit اللي هي 100 minus the available room الغرف المتاحة حاليا, it is going to give us a 1. متى راح تعطيني 1؟ لما يكون الهوتيل limit 100 minus كم and then it's going to give me 1. كم أطرح من 100 على أساس يعطيني 1؟ 99. Exactly. So when I have 100 minus 99 1. So إذا كانت الغرف المتاحة 99 غرفة, معناها هو لما يعمل check out راح تصير الهوتيل فايل. Okay. So this is how we're going to do it. Now, let's assume if it's something you're trying to check out and there is we have 2 situations. Either when we're trying to doing a check-in and the hotel is full, or you would like to check out and the hotel object is an empty status. يعني في شخص جالس يحاول يعمل check out وأساساً الفندق كان فارغ ما أحد حاجز. So إجا receptionist by mistake جالس يحاول يعمل check out وأساساً الفندق ما كان في أحد حاجزنه. So this is going to lead us to an error. or you trying to check in جالسين نحاول نعمل عملية حجز لكن الفندق already full. So this diagrams doesn't show us how we're going to represent it. If you recall from object oriented, we have something called the exceptions. The exceptions that's representing if something wrong happened, what are you going to do? So ايش الاكشن اللي راح يصير لو something wrong happened؟ لو انت جالس تعمل check in والفندق full. So how we going to represent this? We're going to creating a class. اسمه ايش؟ اسمه error. And then we're going to have an object representing that error to reporting any error is going to occur. Okay? We don't have an example on it here, but this is what you need to know. That's how you're going to represent. Let me get back to the slide. How you're going to represent the exceptions? We're going to represent the exceptions using the class error. And what that class error will be, it's going to be creating a global object كل other objects going to have a transition to it if it's something's wrong happened. All the status. يعني لو صارت مشكلة, if it's full, I'm trying to check in or I'm trying to check out and there is no reservation already, راح أرسل transition إلى error object. طيب. We have two types of an event, which is called the entry event or exit event. What does that mean? The entry event or exit event, you said whenever you enter to this status as an object, it's your responsibility to change set of operations. خلينا نشوف المثال. I'm going to get back to this one. So when we are back now to the first example about a room object. So الغرفة راح تنتقل من حالة أن هي مش محجوزة إلى أن هي محجوزة. Okay. Whenever I accept a guest internally داخليا في داخل الأوبجكت اللي من نوع الروم, whenever I accept a guest, I supposed to do two things. I supposed to set the occupant and I'm supposed to remove the occupant. Why we said whenever I'm exempt, why I specify it here instead of put it as in our example, previous example. In the previous example, we have slash and we said set the occupant. We need to emphasize that this action, اللي هي set the occupant, it happened when you enter to this status, اللي هي occupant. So I'm going to say entry slash and then what is the event for entry لما أدخلها. طيب, whenever you exit, now if I'm using another color, whenever you exit from this status, what you're going to do, you're going to remove the occupant. So those are an operation. set the occupant و remove the occupant هم operation موجودين فين؟ موجودين في الروم. When you're going to execute them, you're going to execute set the occupant لما تدخل على حالة إن هي محجوزة, and you're going to execute remove the occupant when you are exit from the status. Okay. طيب, there are some transitions that it doesn't cause any change of the status. يعني ما تنقلنا من حالة إلى حالة, لكن we need it inside the status. Such as if you would like to change a limitation. احنا قلنا مثلا الهوتيل in our example, the limitation of our hotel is 100. In any cases, you would like to change this limitation. So you can have an event inside the not full, إن هي الفندق لسه مش معبى, and I'm going to have an event called the hotel limit change. راح أغيره. إيش اللي راح يترتب عليه? What's the action related to it? لكل فعل ردة فعل. So what's the event, the action for this event is the reset available room. فأنا راح أغير الليمت, بدل ما هي كانت 100 بنيت دور جديد وصار عندي 110 روم for example. اللي أحتاج كمان أغيره, أحتاج أغير reset available room, فراح يكون عندي available room الآن 110. This such of event doesn't cause any change, but it is going to, it's not going to change any status, and also it's not going to relate it to any enter or exit action. Such as when we're having في self transition, لما يكون عندنا self transitions such as this one. So this is called the self transition. Self transitions, you have it and it's going to keep you but with a different event. لكن internal transitions, it is gonna not to affecting events, so ما راح تكون مثل self transitions. يعني it's gonna to happen regardless if there is an event or not. It's not related to any event. فهذا هو الفرق بين internal transitions والself transition. الself transition راح يكون فيها event. الinternal راح تتعلق بإن احنا نحتاج نعمل تغيير لكن it's not related to any transitions. Okay, فين راح نكتبها؟ It is going to be inside the states. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to have what it's called a status, initial status with final status. In the example in this slides, we don't have any final status show. We always have only an initial status. So this is an initial status. So if I'm asking you, how many initial status you can have? What do you think? يعني هل ممكن مثلا أنا أقول في البداية الهوتيل ممكن يكون فاضي، ممكن يكون مليان أول ما أفتح المشروع، وممكن إنه هو يكون if we're talking about a room can be occupied and can be unoccupied at the beginning. It can be more than one transition coming from the initial status, one or more. Only one. دائما الinitial status, it is going to come, it's going to have only one event coming from it. So for the initial status, we're going to have one initial status. However, for the final, we can have zero, مثل الأمثلة اللي لسه شفناها, all of them has a zero, but it can have one or more final status. إيش يعني one more or final status؟ يعني إن هي ممكن تقودنا إلى أكثر من حالة. يعني في حالة نهائية. So that is going to be more than one final status. I'll try to bring example for master session about one and more final status, since we don't have example about it here. What's another difference between the final and initial status? Initial status is immediate transitions to a successor status. دائما هي اللي راح تبدأ. يعني لو اجينا هنا أول حالة لما تكون هذه انعملت بشكل صحيح هي اللي راح تكون الانيشال ستاتس فيها. However في الفاينل هي it's active only for a period of time. يعني الانيشال ستاتس دائما it's going to happen immediately. الفاينل it's going to happen only if and only if for a period of time لما set of events happen correctly. الفرق الأخير, so we're having three different, 1, 2, and 3 difference between the final and initial. The final, let's starting with the initial. The initial has no income and has only one outcome. هل شفتوا هنا في البداية عندنا transition جاية إلى الانيشال؟ لا, never ever. ما راح يدخل عليها أي transition ودائما راح يكون عندها واحدة transition. طيب لو تخيلنا أن هنا في عندنا final status راح نرسمها ويكون عندنا final status بعدها. الفاينل status it can have more than one n لكن it's not going to have outs. العكس بالinitial راح يكون ما عندها outs لكن راح يكون عندها n. So هنا راح يكون فيها n. If we say n, it is going to have n and it doesn't have outs. الopposites في الinitial it doesn't have n but it's going to have outs. Okay, so this is what's explaining هنا في النهاية. So في الinitial we have no income and has only one outcome. في الفاينل can have a several income, ممكن أكثر من transition يجي عليها, and it has no outcome. Is vacated room outgoing transitions. You meaning this one? No, it's not outgoing because it's moving me from one status to another. Out, it's ending up the life of the object. I'll try to bring an example because we don't have an example of a final here. No, a vacate room, it is going to move from one status to another. So no, it's not a final. So when we need to use the status diagrams or the status machines diagrams, when we would like to understand the operation and behavior of the objects and how it's going to changing over time. And it's also helping us to see how it's going to responding to an event. كيف راح يتفاعل مع أي حدث جاي. يعني أنت لما تيجي تعمل check in إيش اللي راح يترتب عليه. So it's going to give us what's the operations. It is going to show us the behavior, how it's the behavior of the lifetime of this object, كيف جالسة تتغير. It is going to show us a respond event, كيف جالس يتفاعل مع أي حدث يصير when you having check in, check out, whatever there. And the last things, it's need to make sure everything's happening correctly. يعني you cannot, for example, check in if the hotel is full. So this is the reason of using the status machine. So we having 4 reasons. We have some way or some situation where we having an object responding to a set of events in the same way. It doesn't change at all. In this case, we call it status independent. يعني لما يكون الأوبجكت دائما يستجيب إلى الحدث بنفس الطريقة, the same event, you always responding to this event and you don't change the status, that means is a status independent. مش متعلق بأي event جالسة تصير عليه, فهو راح يكون status independent. However, when I having an object who reacts differently to a given event are status dependent. خلينا نرجع إلى المثال. So I have an empty. It is status dependent or independent? It's dependent. For example, on a check-in. لأنها it's reacting differently every time and it's going to lead to change of the status from one to another. So here is going to be status dependent. So it's going to react differently every time you receiving this event, okay? So this is about the status diagrams. Any question about it before move to the package diagram? Okay. So let's move to the last part of this unit, which is the package diagrams. So in the package diagrams, we are not going to go in a detail in this course. In fact, for real software engineering, the package diagrams can have a lot of detail, لكن we are not going to go with it. So let me just show you the diagrams so you are know what I'm talking about. And I will try to explain the step right away and back to whatever there. So what's the package diagrams? You already heard the package before في الأوبجكت أورينتد. على إيش كانت تحتوي الباكج في الأوبجكت أورينتد لما كنتوا أخذتوا الجافا when you took الجافا؟ على إيش كانت تحتوي الباكج؟ Do you recall؟ تذكروا؟ على classes صحيح. Now here is different. Yes, group of classes ممتاز. So في الجافا it's only group of classes. Now it's different. Think about it differently. الباكجز في UML packages we're going to see it's more general than الجافا packages, مش بنفس الطريقة. الباكجز هنا it can represent in containing a more widely element. ممكن يكون فيها classes، ممكن يكون داخلها diagrams، ممكن يكون داخلها another packages. So it can have a lot of other elements. نحطها كلها داخل نفس الباكج. So in this example I have 3 packages: الاكونت receive والاكونت payable. I can have one package inside another package. So this package has how many elements? It has a class. ممكن انه هو يحتوي الكلاس، لكن مش مثل الجافا to only have a class. So this اللي هي الاكونت عنده class and it has one package and it has another package. So this is number 2 and it has another package. So it has 3 elements. So how many packages do I have? 3. Account, and it has inside it 2 another package. Each package can has elements to it. So عندنا الباكج ممكن يكون داخله classes، ممكن يكون داخله diagrams، ممكن داخله packages. When you have inside it a package, the same packages inside it, it can have another package, it can have another classes, and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm gonna go back to show it in detail, but I just would like to give you a big picture of what I'm going to talk about it here. So ايش هي الباكجز؟ It is grouping a module element to a one unit. A package اسمها a unit اسمها package. طيب راح تكون عامة أكثر, more general than الجافا package, and you can have almost anything. As I said, it can be another package, diagram, module, classes. All of those can be grouped together. طيب when I'm creating a package, it's going to have a name. We call it a namespace. راح يكون اسم خاص فيها. Okay? Why we need this namespace? To distinguish any inside element. إيش أقصد بهذا الكلام؟ Let's me back to my example. I just would like to clean it out. Again, I don't know why this is. So let's me explain what I mean about a namespace. I have a class account. Good. If I have عفوا الobject الباكج اللي اسمها account. Let's assume I have an element, أي element اسمه E. الaccount received, it has an element اسمه E كمان. والaccount payable, it has an element اسمه E. How you can reach of those E? They have the same name. We need to use a namespace. So if I have an account, how do I know that E belongs to this account? Using a namespace. The same things with this E, the same things with this E. So this E is under the account payable, this is under the account received, this is under the account. So we're gonna use a namespace to distinguish between them, although they having the same name, okay? So when we're talking about a namespace, you can have a different element. If you having same namespace in the same namespace packages, you must always have a different name. But you can have a different packages have the same name. You see what I mean? So in our example, as I just explained to, I represented this. I have element E, and element E, which is I have a different namespaces can have the same name اللي هم elements اللي موجودين same name لكن with a different namespace. I have an account payable, and then received. The first one, if you have an element in the same packages, they cannot have the same name. For example, I have E. Can I have another E here? This is gonna to raise that issue. Exactly نفس اللي كنتوا تعملوه لما كنتوا تكتبوا البرمجة. You cannot have the same name with the same blocks. So packages can be associated with another. Can be associated with another package. and it can be dependent in another package, but it cannot have an interface. إيش يعني it cannot have an interface? Let's not just me explaining the first part here. When they said packages can be associated with another if some of the module elements in the first package are associated with a module in the second element. يعني هنا ممكن يكون فيها علاقة. I have here classes, they can associated with each other. Yes, it's acceptable. And also a package can be dependent on another package. And we will see later when we having the illustrator type إن هي تكون dependent مربوطة فيها متعلقة فيها. But the package cannot have an interface. What do you mean about it cannot have interface? إذا ذكرين من البرمجة, when we having a method, it can invoke another method. ينادي method ثاني. When we having an operation, لما تعاملنا مع sequence diagrams, such as, I just would like to back to early examples. So, an example that you are familiar with. So when we having as a hotel, you have an interface so that they can communicate it with you. لكن when we are talking, and a hotel is a class, so it has an interfaces, so you can communicate it with it. لكن is a package, it doesn't have packages, it doesn't have any interfaces. So you cannot connecting with another packages. I mean, interacting with another package. You have an association, but you are not interacting. طيب إيش الغرض من إن إحنا نقسم السوفت وير تبعنا؟ So the packages, what is going to do? It's going to partition the software. راح تقسم السوفت وير. What's the reason behind dividing or partitioning the software? If I have a big company, let's assume a university, I have a part for a reservation and I have a part for the payment. So I'm going to create a package related to everything about the registration. And I'm going to creating a packages about the finance, a packages for, so I'm going to managing the size. It's big, it's a complex, so I'm going to partition it. Also, sometimes you need to hide some information. So if there's any information about the finance, as an example, I don't need a registration to take a look to it. I don't need them to access it. So I'm going to hide the information by partitioning. So أي شغلة خاصة بالمالية, الباكج اللي خاص بالregistration, they cannot see it. Also, we get to do a logical decomposition. فهنا راح تكون منطقيا مفصلة. So it's easy to implement at the end. An example is a management information systems. This is a very famous example في software engineering. نفترض أن عندنا شركة. Usually we have management information system. إيش يعني management information systems؟ أنا راح يكون عندي مجموعة من المعلومات الخاصة بالمستخدمين. Everything's related to the customer. So I have accounts. I have things about the order, الطلبات. So I have an order processing. I have anything related about the stock control. أنا جالسة أبيع منتجات ملابس. I need to know how many t-shirts do I have now? How many, I don't know, how many bags do I have now? So this is going to control stock. عدد المنتجات اللي موجودة. And I have a package related to manufacturing, التصنيع. فهذا الآن المثال يوضح لكم بشكل مرة واضح الهدف من وراء عمل الباكجز البارتيشنينج. يعني أنا الآن لو logically أقول المعلومات الخاصة بالأكاونت، معلومات المستخدمين، اليوزر نيم تبعهم والباسورد and everything, does it have any relationships with the manufacturing؟ التصنيع، أنا عندي بضاعة راح أصنعها، إيش الماتيريالز that I'm gonna to use إلى آخره. Does it have any relationships؟ ما عندها علاقة. So أنا على أساس إني أقلل الكومبلكسيتي راح أفصلهم، راح أقول هذولا ما لهم علاقة مع بعض فراح اشتغل I'm gonna to work on الاكونت لوحدها on manufacturing لوحدها and so on and so forth. So this is the main reason behind it. What we need to say here, they said the packages is not as the same as the classes, and I need you to really emphasize this. The package مش classes, so you cannot have any association or take a part of any interaction. طيب لسه قلت قبل شوية إن هم هنا to have association with another as a stereotype راح نشوفها بعد شوية اللي هي إنه هو يقدر يستخدمها import المعلومات اللي تكون موجودة اللي هي import or access من another package. لكن what we need to emphasize هنا when we say it cannot have an association يعني ما نقدر أقول خليني أرجع إلى المثال ما أقدر أقول إن عندي account and I have inherit من an account ثاني. This is not correct في ال packages. So الassociation اللي تعلمناها في الclasses it's not reflected في packages. This is what they emphasize here. Okay. So هي في النهاية مش classes. الهدف من packages في النهاية as I said sometimes you need to hide some information so you raised راح نرفع مستوى الabstraction راح نخليها تجريدية أكثر. The details we are not going to show it to us. يعني for any reason if you as a manager you are talking about accounts you talking about the account as a package but you don't know the details unless you have a work with it. إذا لك شغل صحيح فيها and you're doing implementation you are taking a look to it you're going to go to detail. But when we're taking a big pictures أنا الآن لو أطالع هذه الصورة this pictures do I know any detail داخل هذه الباكجز؟ no. So الابستراكشن ليفل الآن عالي. الابستراكشن ليفل يعني تجريدي يعني فقط يعطينا صورة عامة. It's just going to give us the big pictures. So this is what is representing here. And we are going to emphasize that is going to grouping related elements together. And as I said, you can having one packages inside another, which is an nested package. مثل اللي شفناها هنا. طيب. في هذا المثال, we have one more things. I'm going to emphasize it. So I have a classes. If you see, I have a class the transition, and I have a class the customer. What they said I have class transition as an element. هذا هي element موجودة داخل package account. And I have an account received as an element, and I have an account payable as an element. The class here and the class here, can they see each other? Yes, they can see each other, but that they don't have an association such as what we already saw before. They can see it. طيب. Now I have another cases where they said can't see any classes here. So if I have a class inside the account payable, this class, the customer cannot see it. Why? Anyone can think about it? This is related to something I explained before when I said EEE. And this is an important concept for packaging. For package, we have an important part which is related to naming, اللي هي namespace. So why this is cannot access it? I already told you related to what? It's related to namespace. So why this is cannot see it? Exactly, because they have a different namespace. And this class, the transition, has namespace under the account. The customer at the end, it has under the account as well. But the customer, when we see it as an N, it's an account receiver, and this is only account payable. They have a different namespace. This is representing different packages. So this is different namespace, okay? So that they cannot access it. So when we saying هنا, this is what I just explained, that when we having a different elements, they can see each other as what we see. But what we need to think about it in a details, it's related about the visibility. That you already, sorry, that you already studied before, which is when we have it as a plus, it's a public, everyone access it, private, protected as a hash, and to show it as a package is like it's approximations. An important part of the packages اللي هي the stratotype. What's the stratotype? We're having two stratotypes in the package diagram, which is implement and access. Import and access. What's import and what's in access? Import, it's mean bring everything, all public elements in the one package is visible to another. This raised a naming problem. Okay. In another hand, I have an access that you said all elements of the target package will be visible. Like in a symbol, you cannot access it directly. You have to use the name of the package you're going to access. I'm going to explain it in an example to make it easier for you. الآن, let's assume I'm using, so I'm having two packages, good? I have an account received and I have account payable. If you would like to use an element, I have element E. Here, I use import. That means you access it. Now, element inside the account received can refer to all publicly visible elements في account payable, just if they were in the same package. الآن كأنهم راح يتعامل معاها كأنها في نفس الباكج لما أستخدم إيش؟ import. I'm going to give you a fun example to memorize this. Let's assume you and your sister, you are really good with each other. So you tell her everything's in your room. It's okay to be used by her without any asking before. فهي مش المفروض إن هي تطلب منك إذن تقولي لها أي شيء موجود في غرفتك you can use it. الآن this is import. Import, you can use it directly. So now if the account receiver would like to use the E, how it can be used? It's just gonna to say E directly. مسموح له يستخدمه direct. طيب, what's the problem here? إيش المشكلة الآن؟ نفترض إن you go to your sister room. She said use whatever you would like and you get a book and she didn't label it. ما كتبت عليها اسمها. You just use that book, software engineering book, because we love it now. When you have the book, let's assume you have the same book, the software engineering. What is going to happen? You will get confused. You have access directly to her book, which doesn't have a label, مش كاتبة عليها اسمها, and you have your own book, which is the same book. So you are importing, that means importing, you can use it as it's here. This is what does it mean. So let's use a different color. So I have the E, which is belong to me. And I have the E coming from the payable. So the problem now, how do I know which for who? This is called raising naming problem. يسبب مشكلة في الأسماء. Okay? So import is going to bring everything, but it's going to raise the naming problems. The result is that it's important name clash with existing name that we need to use qualified to distinguish this is coming from whom. Okay? So this is the import. I hope this is clear. Then we're going to go to the access. In another hand, let's assume we don't have it. I'm just going to raise it here. And I'm going to change the stratotype. So now the stratotype is not imports. The stereotype now is what? Access. Access, that means you can use my stuff, but keep my label on it. يعني هنا, your sister said, you can use my book, but whenever you use it, I'm supposed to have my name on it. So if you have the same book, you have an E, the software engineering book, and now you need to use. You don't bring it all directly. What are you going to do? You're going to put the accounts payable, the name of the package, and then a colon, and then an E. So now, yes, we have the same name, but now I know this is belong to my sister and this is mine, which is E. So this is what they said here. So now to avoid raising a naming problem, على أساس ما ندخل في مشكلة الأسماء, we're gonna to use the access stereotype. So we're gonna to put the package name and then double colons and then the element name. Okay. So this is another example. They said sometimes you have more than one level. So any questions before we're moving to different layers? Any question about import and access? This is a very, very important concept في package. Any question about the import والaccess? على أساس تذكروها, import كأنك تستعير من شخص بدون ما تاخذ منه label. فلما يكون عندك نفس الشغلة راح يكون عندك مشكلة في الأسماء, naming the problem. Access, you're gonna to use it, but it has a label on it. So it is gonna to distinguish between whatever you have and whatever you get from the others. Now what they said here, sometimes we having a different layer of architectures. So I have a package which is can access another package, and I have a package which is can access to another package. So this is representing a different layer of packages. Okay, so this is the end about our lectures today. We already complete the part about the sequence diagrams. We start the status diagrams or package diagram. By end of this unit, which is unit 7, we end up with all diagrams, and we will start about talking about the testing with block 3. Okay. Any questions about today's lecture?